Hi guys, this is part one of a two-part series, My Tackle Box. Hi guys, here we are. It's the continuation of the lockdown, and I thought I'd better put another vlog up because, as I say, things have been getting a bit boring back home here in my apartment. Thankfully, I've had a couple of orders of ground bait, so that's kept me going. And thanks to the guys who've done that, I much appreciate it, because obviously, like everything, you know, if you're stuck at home, what can you do? And if you've got some work to do, even better. And of course, helps pay the way a little bit. But anyway, what I'm going to do today, I thought I'd just again continue with my fishing tackle and go through my tackle box with you, and maybe pick up some ideas. So no further ado, let's have a quick look at. Okay, well, I'm just opening the top of my box, and I got lots of bits and pieces there, of course. All right, let me just put the lid back. Obviously on the side I got my shots, other bits and pieces, and on the other side, and of course underneath, sorry, my camera's playing up a little bit. Underneath, oh, bloody rats have been at my seat again. So I've had to take it from the garage now and keep it indoors. And then here I got my reels and small floats. So I'll go through all this in a minute, and you can see where, see if I can work out some ideas on some tactics. Okay, sorry about the glasses, but as I say, when it comes to looking at small items these days, these are glasses. Right, a couple of things worth having in the tackle box. Grease. Now, these are bristle grease you can buy, fluorescent, and they're perfect for when you know, you're fishing a shotted down float, especially pole fishing, and all you want is the grease, if you like, on the bristle, to make the float so sensitive that, of course, when you get a bite, then it absolutely disappears. So it comes in yellow, and also comes in orange, and those are the two most popular colours. If you want it a bit clear, then, well, let me just reach out to get this. Yeah. Otherwise, you can use the pink tin Vaseline, which is clear. So that's the other alternative. Okay, so as I say, I don't know, it says Preston make these, but I'm sure I've seen other companies as well make them, but they're definitely worth having in your tackle box. Yeah, so anyway, talking about grease, always have some of this. This is the fly dressing line, and it comes with a pad, yeah, that you can basically wipe the grease onto the line, and when you want to make the line floating. And I use a lot of floating lines, but to be quite honest, you know, when I'm stick float fishing and Wagler fishing sometimes, because it's not always you want to bury the line, you know, to stop, obviously you bury the line to stop the float from drifting, and the wind from drifting, but sometimes I'll fish a Wagler with the line floating so you can mend it, and obviously sometimes better present. Yeah, so another little extra item to have is Tipp-Ex. I did mention in my last vlog that I got a pen Tipp-Ex, but you can't beat the old brush on one. That's, you know, it stays a long time fresh in these bottles. I think I've had this for over 12 months now, Tipp-Ex, and it's perfect, as I say, for colouring the bristle of the float, as well as the felt pen, but, you know, always handy. Always got one of them in my box. Insulation tape. I always have insulation tape. Insulation tape, as I said, I could use it on the winders to put the line, but I can also use it on to secure the reel. Sometimes the reel's a bit loose on the handle, and also if the eye comes off or comes loose, you can basically put a bit of tape around it, keep the eye on the rod, and also, which has happened before now, where you snap the pole or say one of the top sections, and you have to telescope it, then obviously you don't want to get the splinters in your hand, so just put a bit of tape around it, and that'll suffice, you know, gets you on that little bit of a problem. Like, so as I say, always worth having that in your tackle box. Yeah, as I say, I do a lot of float fishing, more than feeder fishing, but one thing which is very underestimated are the old bait droppers, and I've always got a few of them in the box. And they're perfect for, because you know when you lose feeding sometimes, although you imagine in your mind's eye where the actual bait is travelling, and you know obviously depending on the speed of the flow of the river and where it ends up, well sometimes it's always a good idea to just put a little bit of feed right on the bottom, and these are simple to use. You've probably seen them before. You just put your line through the loop, hold it onto a bit of cork. Okay, then you open it up, you put your maggots or your casters or your hemp or whatever you want on the bottom, close it up, put that over it, and then what happens is when this sinks to the bottom, it opens up. Dropped it. So when it sinks to the bottom, so basically it just springs open like that. Okay, so as I say, brilliant. Always got two, because in case you lose one. I also got them in different sizes. I've also got a very big one like that, especially when you're fishing the big rivers on the Wye and places like that, and you want to get a lot of bait like chopworm. You want to get a lot of chopworm in on the bottom. Yeah. Anyway, talking about feeders, you know, as I say, I do use a lot of feeders, and I some of the better type of the old black cap ones, those there which are weighted. These I find quite good. The old Drennens, different sizes. You know. These are maggot feeders, obviously, because they're all casters and hemping as well. So those are a couple of. I've always got a few of them in the box. Yeah, this is one in particular that I'm actually running short of now. But the old window feeders, these are perfect. These are for putting loose feed in and just plugging it with a little bit of ground bait. But I've also found you can actually cast this quite a long distance with the bait inside it without plugging it sometimes, but a little bit of security, just put a little bit of plug, so you're not actually putting a lot of ground bait, you're putting more feed in, and they're like bullets, and they go tremendously tremendous long distances. So yeah, those are the other type of feeders, you know, that I keep. Maybe let's get back to the floats, because feeders, although you know, as I say, I do use a feeder sometimes. Obviously, with the feeder tactics, that's another vlog, which hopefully I'll be making once we're allowed back out on the rivers. Yeah, so coming back to floats, as I say, keep a lot of the floats on winders. And also always make sure you got plenty of float rubbers, different sizes. Okay, for obviously stick float fishing and bolly fishing as well. So always got a few of them in my box. Oh, took more glasses. Well, always got a couple of pairs of glasses in case I lose one. Now here's something that a lot of people probably don't have, and that's one of these counters. Now if you're match fishing, these are perfect for timing yourself. So let's say, for example, you're catching bleak, you know, and you want to basically time yourself, because you need to basically try and keep your rhythm going so that you catch so many bleak within, say, 10 minutes, and you simply multiply that then over the hour, and that will give you a rough idea of basically what the amount of fish you need to get your weight. So if you're aiming for 20 pound or 30 pound, then you know. But also, as well as the time, there's also a little compass in it if you get lost. No, we're joking. But also, as I say, as well as the time, it's also got the time. So when you're fish a match, you know, you can look down and you know if you've got an hour, 2 hours left, and if you want to change tactics. So yeah, that's a handy little thing, you know, to sort of have in your box, you know. Yeah, this is something that's that obviously I carry a lot of, and that's stick floats. Probably, you know, more than I ever need. There's a little Avon there. I use a lot of Avons, you know, if you want both down. By the way, I make these, so if anyone, if you're ever looking for Avons, you know, I supply them from 4 BB right up to 12 BB. So you know, brilliant little float, because with the Avons, they're they're very similar to shotting to how you would have pole float in a sense, because you get the bug down and you have a tail and you have 1 or 2 shots depending how far your distance you're fishing at distance. But I call them instant fishing, because basically when you cast them out, the bug takes the float out, the bug sinks into the water and the float settles straight away. So it's almost like instant fishing sometimes, especially if you're fishing sort of further out, than you would, with a normal stick float, because you can get casties a bit further out. Do you know, I was just looking at that, just little coming to my mind then. I remember when I fished in one of the international competitions, I noticed one of the guys had 2 tips on his float. Yeah, basically one was a white, one was a black. And I think the idea is that as it was travelling down and the different shades of colour on the far bank, if it was white, you could see it against a black background, and if it was white, you could see it against a clear background. And it's something that I never really cottoned on to, or we don't use it in the UK, but certainly worth thinking about, maybe at a future date. As I say, I make floats. You can go over to my website, www.goldmedalfloats.co.uk, and you can see an array of floats. In fact, all the floats that I've used over the years, I give a description on how to use them, how to shop them, as well as making them. There's some of the floats I've stopped making now, because it's just so time consuming sometimes that that I find that anglers are better off buying them from the shops, really. But there you are, that gives you an idea. So some of the floats I carry, and wagglers. I'll show you about the wagglers in a minute. Yeah, with my wagglers, I actually keep them in tubes. Obviously, for safekeeping, I usually keep these on the bottom of the box. But these, you might see that a lot of my wagglers are basically the crystal wagglers. Yeah. The reason why I use crystal wagglers, there is a reason. Although I still use the old peacocks. I still got a few of them, knocking around. But generally, I'm more in favour of the crystal wagglers these days, because in fact it's been a few years now since I've been using these, and they come in like 2 AAA, 3 AAA, 2 swan and 2.5 swan. The reason being is that they are, in my opinion, the best wagglers to use, only because most of them, when you buy them, not only are they very accurate when it comes to shotting them down, but also, unlike peacock, where you got different diameters and they're not always the same, these you can almost guarantee have got the same shotting capacity every time, and which makes it easy then when you come to shotting them up or storing them on winders or whatever. But the other thing I do like about them, these crystals, is basically a lot of them, most of them, have got tips, detachable tips, so you can change the colours. So if you want white, you can black. Got a black one here somewhere. Black or white. As I say, yellow. Yellow's always a very good colour as well. So you can, as I say, swap these over very, very quickly without changing the whole float. And as I said, these are, during the lockdown. I mean, I'm actually, going through all my gear and trying to tidy them all up if I can, because it's been a while since I've actually gone through everything. See if I can repair any and throw any that are damaged out or whatever. But yeah. But the other thing I've got to tell you about crystals, the other reason why I'm very, very, how should I say? Why these are the most popular float is, to me, is because I remember fishing. It was on the River Severn up at the place at Shrewsbury, and I drew just above a peg that was going over the river, as in the quarry it was. And I never forget. I'm going back like 30 years ago now, when you know, before match fishing become that popular in Shrewsbury, because I used to live up there, you know, after getting flooded out at Evesham. I moved up to Shrewsbury, up that area, and had a guest house. But that's on my autobiography, so if you want to go and view that, you can. But anyway, I was fishing a Wagler, and you know, a peacock Wagler down the middle of the river, and I was catching the odd dace. And I never get, a member of the public went over this footbridge and said, hey, mister, I can see a huge shoal of fish there, and every time your float goes by, they seem to move away from it. And I thought, I'm wondering whether dace clever, well, more fish are clever, whether they do get spooked by dark objects and shapes floating down the river. So anyway, I thought, well, let's try a crystal, because I always thought, well, a crystal is almost like a bubble on the surface of the water, in a sense, and it doesn't cast a shadow. So anyway, what I done, I basically changed my float quickly over to a crystal, and you know what? What a difference! I started catching a fish with chuck then. Just so, you know, it proved to me then that fish sometimes do see the shadow of a float, you know, particularly, you know, a dark coloured float. So ever since, I've used crystals. I did at one stage start painting my floats white once, which again gives the same effect. And that's why if you look at my website, and you know, I do them in white as well, so I can make floats in white. But anyway, that's a little tip about Wagler fishing, and the reason why I got crystals. Yeah, in fact, you know, obviously the couple of the attachments you need for Waglers are adapters to go on the bottom, of course, you know. I always got a few of them in my box. There's another little float there I just want to quickly show you. It's what I call a Thai Wagler, and I got this from Thailand when I was in Thailand, and it's a funny looking float. In fact, it looks a bit Mickey Mouse-ish, doesn't it? But in fact, it works extremely well. This is the only float I know is so versatile that you can actually fish shallow, and you can turn it into a slider very, very quickly. Yep, so as I say, you want to look at more on this in depth, go to the website and have a look, and I'll explain a little bit more about it, you know. Yeah, anyway, talking about floats, I also have a box of micro floats, what we call micro floats, you know, mini Waglers that sometimes I use, especially in shallow waters, or if I'm fishing small rivers and streams. You know, there's one in particular, a very small one. There, see. Yeah. So you know, that's always worth having a couple in your box in case you ever fish. Obviously, I would normally have these on winders, but I'm just looking through now. Yeah, I need to make a couple of these up, I think, over the next week or two, because, as I say, having them on winders is so advantageous, you know, if you want to change, you know, if you want to change your rigs and your floats at any given time. So, but let me show you a couple of floats I got on my winders. Yeah, so there you go. There's some of my winders, and these are, as I said, mainly pole float winders. Yeah, so anyway, as I said, those are my floats. You can never have enough floats. In fact, I think we probably carried too many half the time. And a little bit like the ground bait, I think it catches more anglers than fish sometimes. Right, just want to go through a couple of other things now I got in my boxes. Obviously got the little pliers. I know I mentioned last time about the about those little tweezers that I use, but they're quite good. This is always worth having as well. This is what we call a sharpening stone, especially if you know, if you ever bump a fish sometimes, or you ever snag and you pull it back and you look, you know, if you look at it very closely, sometimes the hook is slightly blunt. So all you do is simply, you know, rub it up and down on this fine sharpening stone, and it can saves you changing the whole hook again. So as I said, it's definitely worth having in the box. Scissors, obviously, cutting you know, the tails off and so on. This is more for carp fishing, for carp fishing, but basically it's a pellet expander for the elastic, so you can put your pellets on. Always carry one of them. That's a little spike, perfect for undoing knots, what we call a knot picker. I probably got a better one than that here somewhere, which is basically tapering down to a point. And sometimes when you're fishing and you get a little knot and you think, oh my God, have I got to change a whole rig or something? Sometimes with this little knot picker, you simply push it into the knot, work it very slowly, loosely, and it opens up the knot, and you're back to square one again, without fishing with knots on the line. See if I can dig it out a minute, see if I can find it. Never mind, I found it. Yeah, basically, as you can see, it's a very, it tapers very quickly into a point, and as I say, definitely worth having in the box for undoing those knots. This particular one's also got a disgorge on the other end, but they come in different companies actually do these, so they are definitely worth having. Yeah, so there you go. As I say, it does take years to accumulate all these bits and pieces, and I did mention in my autobiography when I was in Evesham, I lost everything. 20, 30 years of accumulation of all these little bits, and they sort of basically just I lost them, as I said, in the floods. But there are things. It's a full-time job, full-time hobby, just trying to get all these bits. It all helps in your fishing in the long run. That's the main thing. I just found the float adapters I was telling you about. These are by Maver. They're clear. Sometimes you can get the black silicone ones, which are quite good. So there are. That's that. Always carry a knife. A little sharp knife is always handy. Cutting up meat and things like that. A couple other things. Meat punches. These are big ones. I've also got bread punches here somewhere. Again, as I said, it's always a good idea to have everything in order in your box so you know where you're going. I'm just going through my box at random, if you like, at the moment. They're a little handy tool. I don't know if you've ever seen them. And basically, you can reopen your split shots, as well as squeezing them onto the line. You can actually put them in and open up the shots again, so to reuse the shots. So, as I say, another little handy tool. I carry quite a few different ledges, plummets. There's a flat plummet there with a cork in the bottom. I do like the clip-on ones, which are basically these type, which you just clip it onto your hook, quick on and off. These are plummets I made myself. These are a bit of lead with a sponge in the middle, and these are ideal if you're fishing, say, a rocky bottom, and you tend to, snag up your plummet. Well, these are obviously the cheapest chips to make. Just put your hook into the sponge, and that weight then, as I say, acts as a plummet. And if it does get stuck, you just pull it up. Okay, you've lost a little bit of lead, but at least you've got your rig back. So that's a nice little tip there for you. Yeah, I got my RC bombs. The reason they call them RC, by the way, if anyone's not sure, Dick Walker, that famous carp angler that I spoke about on one of my vlogs, he used to fish a lake called Lake Arsley, and basically he made a fishing weight with a swivel on, like a bomb, and he nicknamed it the Arsley bomb, and hence the name stuck ever since. So if anyone ever says what's an Arsley bomb, now you know. That's a flat lead as well. These are handy on the rivers, so sometimes you don't want the weight or the bomb to roll away. This will hold it still. So they're handy to have. Made these myself like a coffin. I remember I used to do the old coffin leads years ago. Just call them coffin leads, shaped like a coffin. Yeah, so as I said, I'm just going through it randomly at the moment, just so I can, you know, get through as much as I can with you. Yeah, I just come across my my bread punches. They're the smaller ones. Just showing you different ones there, different sizes. Oh, always worth having little candle wax, little an old yeah, old wax it is basically. Yeah, couple of uses. You put it on the joints of your you know, your pole or your rods, especially if they're loose. You know, by adding this. Another little tip: sometimes if you've got a loose joint, put a little blade of grass in. That works sometimes as well on a rod. Not on your pole, because you want to be able to pull your pole apart. Oh, it's just dropped. Anyway, so that's another little thing.